Hello geometry students, and welcome to a video on reflections in synthetic geometry. No coordinate plane to help us now. I'm going to suggest that you have a couple tools with you. So one of them, have a couple colored pencils. Another one, have a ruler. We're going to use a ruler not just for straight lines, but we're actually going to use these little lines that are just built into the ruler in a way that they're not usually used. We're going to use them because those lines are perpendicular to the edge of the ruler. So we're going to use the fact that they're perpendicular because that's part of reflections, is the perpendicular. And the last tool is a square piece of paper. Now the stickiness is kind of annoying. We don't want the stickiness. So I'm going to fold over. I'm just going to fold the sticky side. It's right underneath here. Fold it over like this to try to make a straight line. And it's just going to make it easier to work with. Now this is going to be a measuring tool, believe it or not. This is going to store distances. So this is really handy to have unless you want to measure each time with a ruler, which can be kind of a pain. Trust me, it's a lot faster with this. So have one of these ready, just a piece of paper, any kind of square piece of paper. You can really use anything. If it's not a sticky note, that's fine. If it's like a 3x5 card, that will work. Something that's got, not quite too flimsy would be helpful. All right, so I hope you take that advice, not just for this lesson, but it's going to be for the next couple of lessons. You're just going to want to keep these tools handy. All right, let's get started and let's start thinking about what exactly is a reflection in synthetic geometry. Okay, so first of all, a little bit of vocabulary, reminder, perpendicular bisector. It's exactly what it sounds like, a perpendicular bisector. Now the first thing is you have to understand not any figure in the universe can have a perpendicular bisector. A circle doesn't have one. A triangle doesn't have a perpendicular bisector. A line doesn't have one. An angle doesn't have one. Only one thing has a perpendicular bisector, and that is a segment. That's the only thing that has a perpendicular bisector. When that segment has something else that's cutting it right through the midpoint and perpendicular to the segment itself, that's a perpendicular bisector. So it could be a line, it could be another segment, it could be a ray, but it intersects the segment that's being cut in half at its midpoint and perpendicular to the segment. All right, so we kind of need that idea here, that concept. So what is a reflection? So a reflection, a point which we call the image, is the reflection of another point which we call the pre-image. Let me just zoom out so we can get this whole thing. Okay, so a point, the image, is a reflection of another point, the pre-image, over a line which we can call either the line of symmetry or the line of reflection. I'm just going to call it the line of symmetry. This is the third time that we've seen this phrase, or the line of reflection, in some notes. This is the third time, and there's going to be more. So a point is a reflection of another point over a line of symmetry if the line of symmetry, is the perpendicular bisector of the segment. The perpendicular bisector of the segment. Okay, of the segment whose endpoints are the image and the pre-image. So not just any segment. So we have 2 points, the image and the pre-image, connect them, like these 2 points, connect them, you form a segment, right? That segment can have symmetry if you talk about the line of symmetry that's perpendicular to the 2 of them. So let's just go ahead and draw that on here before we go into that middle part on notation. Let's just kind of look at this. So when we are looking at 2 points and we want to see these as reflections of one another, it only makes sense if you look at the segment that connects them, this segment right here, and we take, of that segment, we take the perpendicular bisector. So this is going to be the first time we use the ruler in the way that I was telling you. Now you can just eyeball where the middle of this is. So in other words, I'm just kind of going by sight. I'm not measuring. It's just easier and actually probably just as accurate to just estimate visually. Just do it carefully. Don't rush it. Just do it carefully. If you look like it's a little bit low, then you know what you do? You make the point a little bit bigger, and then it will extend farther that way. You just have to do it in a way that still makes it look like it's the middle. Now here's how I'm going to use the ruler. I'm going to look at my ruler, and I'm going to look at the side that has the biggest lines like this. These little, they're segments really. Whichever one the biggest ones are. I like the ones by the edge. I think that those are the longest lines there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up along with my ruler. It doesn't matter if I pick 7 or 8. It doesn't matter which one I pick. But you see how right now it's not lined up with the line, but when I turn it, I can tell when it's exactly lined up with the line. So if I adjust the ruler so that it's lined up perfectly, and then I get the point so it's right there at the edge, then when I connect it, I'm going to make a line of symmetry. So again, I want to really look carefully at that line. You know, I'm going to even zoom in a little bit. I want to really look carefully. Right now, it's a miss, right? That's not very good right there. I want to look better than that. I want to get it really lined up like that. All right, and now I'm too far from the point, so I want to move it up a little bit. And when I feel like I just have it right, I'm going to hold the ruler down and make the line. And there's the line of symmetry. Okay? When you're doing this with multiple points, it's even more important that you do it carefully. All right, so this is the notation that I skipped. And what this says is that the reflection, this is the reflection over line L. So I better name that line now that I know that it's the reflection over the line L. The reflection of the line L of T is U. That's what it says. So that's going to be our notation here. And so I'm just going to use something different. How about the reflection over the line T, let's say, of the point M is N, and that reads the reflection over line T. That is always the line. That little thing down there is the name of the line. So over line T of the point M, that's the preimage, of M is N. Zoom out a little bit, finish this. Is N. There we go. Okay? So we've got our notation. We've used it to find a reflection. Now let's look at a figure that already has some reflections. And there's one other part of the definition, and it's down here. I have it, I just kind of skipped over it. So if a preimage point is on the line, if it's already on the line of symmetry, then it's its own image. In other words, it has no place to go. So it's its own image. So when we look at this figure, and I ask you, what is the reflection of line of H over line E? It's already H. It's already there. Okay? So that's what we have. So when we are asked over here to draw these, and it says, draw the reflection over line E of H, well, there's nothing to draw. I can call that H prime, and I can now say that this point has two names. It's H, and it's also H prime. Okay? Let's do that with J and K. Now, again, I'm going to use my ruler, and I like to do this in pencil because I like to have a really light line when I'm looking for the reflection. So I'm going to use the pencil, the ruler, the same way I showed you. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line up. I'm using the 7, but I'm using the line there. So I'm lining this up so that it looks good. It looks really like I'm now using the ruler to make it perpendicular. And I'm going to go until I get to point K. And when I'm at point K and I feel like I'm comfortable there, I'm going to adjust that it's still perpendicular. I'm good right there. I like that right there. So I hold the ruler down. I make the line. Now I'm halfway there because it's got to be the perpendicular bisector. Line E has to be the perpendicular bisector of K and the end point on the other side. So here's how you use this paper. Now we're going to use this stuff. All right, so we're going to take the paper, any corner that you want, and we're going to put it down like this. And I'm going to put it just so the edge of the paper goes to the middle of the point, and I'm going to make a little mark here where the line is. What I'm doing is I'm saying this is how far that point is from the line. Now I want another point the same distance, so I'm going to just put the corner right there and get it just right, and then I'm going to mark the line. It's okay if there's a little bit of a gap just to be able to see. Now I'm going to mark the line right there. Now I just actually measured the same distance from this point to the line, I measured it on the other side. So this is now my reflection. There's my K prime. And it's pretty close to as good as you can get with the tools that we have. So this is going to be called K prime. Now let's do the same thing with J. All right, so I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to go a little faster this time, but I'm going to use my ruler to set it up so that I have a perpendicular. And then I'm going to move right to the middle of point J till I'm happy that it's right there in the middle. Pretty good right there. And then I'm going to make the line, oops, it's a pencil, not a pen, and make it a little bit bigger than I need because I'm going to use this to measure the distance. All right, so I can use the same part. It doesn't matter as long as I remember what I'm doing here. So this is the distance to the pre-image, and I'm just going to move that to the line itself, and this is now the image J prime right there. It's actually kind of fun when you get it right, especially when you do it with another figure. So this is my J prime, and that equals J prime. All right, now for the fun stuff. It's not that fun, honestly, when you do it just with points, because you can't really tell what's going on as well. Did I do this right? This looks like it's not. Now I can always check this, by the way. This distance right here to K prime and this distance right here looks pretty good. Looks like it's farther there, but that's because of where I drew the K. It's a little optical illusion that makes it look shorter. Now with these, it's really fun to get this just right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the ruler the same way 3 times to get 3 lines with the pencil. So I'm going to line. I'm going to really zoom in here. Okay, so I'm going to line this up. I'm looking at this with the lines because I want to get that. I want to use the ruler to make a perpendicular, and I'm going to get it to this first vertex right here. So I'm going to move it so that it's perpendicular and right there. No, a little bit more. Right there. Okay? Now I'm going to make the line. There's a perpendicular line. Now I'm going to do another one right here to this point. These are the points that define the triangle. So I'm going to put another one, get it lined up, move it right to the point, and I can really do this faster. I'm not just trying to get it perfect for you guys to see this. The goal here, and they should be parallel, by the way, because all the lines perpendicular to this line will be parallel to each other. So maybe a little bit of an adjustment, and there we go. Okay, there's the second one. And then I do that one more time with this vertex over here, and I'm going to turn the ruler around because it's easier to see. The arrow was in my way, and there it is on the line. Move it over, and how about right there? How do they look? Okay, they look pretty parallel. If they don't look parallel, maybe you want to redo one of them, but they look pretty good. Now I'm going to use this paper to store the distances. So I'm going to store the distance from this first vertex to the line of symmetry, which is the pre-printed line right there at the distance. Move it over and draw the point. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I don't have to erase anything. I'm just going to use a new one and just remember which one it is. Move it over so that the corner is right where the line is, and here's my point right there. And then one more time, it's going to be a much smaller segment in this one, so right there, put the point, move it over, and we got it right there. Okay, let's see how this came out. This is the fun part. Draw them and connect them. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to connect these two. I'm going to connect these two. And I'm going to connect these. The farthest ones right there. Okay, let's see what we get. Now we'll zoom out, and it looks pretty good. I want to see these lines when you're doing reflections. I want to see that you're doing it right. Now I'm going to just make my pre-image in blue, since it's already blue, and my image in green. And I have drawn the reflection. So I have drawn the reflection of the triangle across the line, and you can write in your own words how you use the ruler, but you use the perpendicular lines on the ruler. Perpendicular marks on the ruler, and use paper for the lengths. Okay?